You were 24. You had $100 left over every month. Not much, just enough to notice. Most people spent it. You almost did too. A new hoodie, a night out, a subscription you forgot about a week later. $100 couldn't change your life. That's what everyone believed, so that's what you believed too. You never asked the one question that would have changed everything. What if I didn't spend it? Then one night you saw a number online, a simple chart. It showed what $100 a month could turn into if you left it alone for 30 years. The number was big, bigger than you expected. You stared at it for a long time, scrolling back up to make sure you'd read it right. Something in your chest shifted just a little. A quiet voice asked a question you'd never asked before. What if I just didn't spend it? You didn't act on it yet, but the question stayed with you. It followed you to bed that night, and it was still there in the morning, sitting quietly behind your first cup of coffee, waiting for you to either answer it or bury it. You almost ignored it. $100 felt too small to matter. Your friends were buying new phones and taking trips. Saving felt boring next to that. It felt like giving something up for a future you couldn't even picture yet, trading a Friday night you could feel for a number on a screen you might never see. You told yourself you'd start later, when you made more money, when things settled down, when the timing felt right. That's what most people say, and most people never start, because the timing never quite arrives on its own. 2 weeks passed, then a month. The chart from that night kept showing up in your head anyway, quiet and patient, waiting for you to stop running from it. The mentor showed up at work, in the break room of all places, an older coworker named Denise. She'd worked there for 20 years. She never seemed stressed about money, and you always wondered why, especially when everyone else complained about rent the same way you did. One day, you finally asked her. She smiled and said, "I started with $50 a month when I was your age. Nobody noticed. That was the whole point." She told you about compound growth, the simplest idea in the world that almost nobody uses. Your money earns money. Then that money earns more money. It doesn't feel like magic at first. It just feels like nothing happening, month after month, which is exactly why most people quit before it ever starts to show. Small amounts, left alone long enough, turn into something you can't ignore, but only if you never touch them. You didn't fully understand it yet, but you believed her, because she wasn't trying to sell you anything. She wasn't a stranger on your phone screen with a course to sell. She was just living proof, sitting 3 cubicles down, eating the same cafeteria lunch as everyone else. That weekend, you opened an investment account. It took 15 minutes. You picked a simple index fund, the boring kind Denise had mentioned, the kind that owns a small piece of hundreds of companies instead of betting on just one. You set up an automatic transfer. $100 a month, moved the day after payday, before you could spend it on anything else. You didn't tell anyone. It felt too small to brag about, and too important to risk someone talking you out of it before it even had a chance to grow. The moment you stop deciding every month is the moment the habit actually starts working. You crossed a line that day that most people never cross, not because it was hard, because it was boring. And boring things are the easiest things in the world to quit. The first test came fast. 3 months in, your account held about $300, almost exactly what you'd put in. Your car needed new tires. Real money gone in one afternoon. You looked at your investment account and thought about pausing the transfer. Just for a month, just this once. You didn't. You found the money somewhere else instead, even though it hurt a little. Even though your instinct was screaming that $300 sitting untouched made no sense while your bank account was thin. The next test was worse. A year in, your account sat at about $1,257. You'd put in $1,200. $57 of growth for an entire year of waiting? Your friend bought a new gaming console with cash the same week. Another friend went on a trip to Mexico and posted pictures every day for a week. You sat at home with your boring account, watching a number move slower than a snail across a sidewalk. This is the part nobody warns you about. The beginning of investing feels like nothing is happening at all. Denise became your ally through all of it, even though she didn't know it. Every time you doubted it, you thought of her, 3 cubicles down, calm and unstressed after 20 years of doing exactly this. Your own doubt became the real enemy, whispering that this was pointless, that $57 proved nothing, that you should just spend the money and enjoy your life while you were young. 2 years in, you almost quit completely. Your account had grown to about $2,644. You'd put in $2,400 of your own money. Just over $200 of it wasn't yours. It didn't feel like much compared to everything you gave up to get there. Every small sacrifice, every skipped dinner out, every no to a friend's invitation, and the number still felt too small to matter next to 2 full years of your life. You sat with your laptop open one night, hand on the mouse, ready to cancel the automatic transfer for good. You had the cursor hovering right over the button the same way your thumb would hover over a different button 10 years later in a different story. The hardest part of this journey isn't the sacrifice. It's believing the sacrifice is working when you can't see the proof yet. You didn't cancel it. You closed the laptop instead. You didn't feel brave, you just felt tired. And tired people sometimes do the right thing simply because quitting takes more energy than continuing. Then the real test arrived. 5 years in, your account had grown to about $7,744. That felt like real money for the first time in this whole journey. You let yourself feel proud of it for exactly 1 week. Then the stock market crashed. Everyone panicked. The news showed people losing huge amounts of money overnight, grown men on television with their heads in their hands. Your account, the one you'd built slowly for 5 years, dropped by almost a third in a few weeks, down to around $5,200. You watched the number fall every single day. Your stomach hurt every time you checked it. Your friend Marcus, who'd mocked your boring index fund years earlier, sold everything he owned that week, scared and shaking, his voice cracking a little over the phone. He told you it was the smart move. He told you to do the same thing before you lost even more. You thought about it. You really did. For 1 whole night, you lay awake thinking about pulling everything out and putting it somewhere safe, somewhere that couldn't shrink while you slept. You didn't. You remembered what Denise told you the day you met her in that break room. Markets fall. They always have. The people who lose the most are the ones who sell while everything is down. You left your money exactly where it was. You didn't stop your $100 transfer either. You kept buying, even while everything looked broken, even while Marcus texted you every few days asking if you'd finally come to your senses. It was the hardest thing you'd done in this entire journey. 2 years after the crash, 7 years in, the market came all the way back. Then it kept climbing. Your account, the one that dropped to $5,200 at its worst, had grown past $12,100, bigger than it had ever been before the crash, bigger than it had any right to be after everything that happened. Marcus never got back in. He was too scared after losing money once. He missed the entire recovery, sitting in cash, watching everyone else's accounts grow while his stayed exactly where he'd left it, frozen in fear from a moment 2 years gone. You didn't feel like celebrating. You felt something quieter than that. Relief, mixed with a strange kind of pride. You'd done the one thing almost nobody manages to do. You held on when it was hardest to hold on, when every voice around you said to run. The reward for staying calm isn't excitement. It's just the number finally starting to speak louder than your doubt did. 10 years in, your account sat at about $20,480. You'd put in $12,000 of your own money across 10 years. The other $8,480 had grown on its own, quietly, while you weren't watching, while you were living an otherwise ordinary life. Your life looked almost the same from the outside. Same apartment, same car, same simple habits. Nobody around you knew what your account looked like because you never talked about it. You'd learned that talking about it invited opinions you didn't need. Your friends were still buying new things every year, new phones, new cars, new trips they'd forget the details of within a few months. You still bought your $100 fund every single month, quiet and unnoticed, the same as day one. The habit that started as a decision became something you didn't have to think about anymore. That's when it really started working. A second test found you here too. Your company went through layoffs. You survived, but your hours got cut for 4 months. Money was tight in a way it hadn't been since your 20s. You thought, once again, about pausing the transfer, just until things stabilized. You cut other things instead. You cooked at home more. You canceled a streaming service. The $100 kept moving, the same day every month, like it had a life of its own separate from yours. 12 years in, something unexpected happened. A younger coworker, nervous and unsure, asked you how you always seemed so calm about money. You almost laughed because you remembered asking Denise that exact question in that same break room over a decade earlier. Denise had retired 2 years before, quietly, the way she did everything. You found yourself repeating her words almost exactly, like they'd been waiting inside you the whole time. Start with whatever feels small enough that you won't miss it, then never look at it again. The coworker started their own $100 transfer that week. You didn't know yet whether they'd stick with it. Neither had you at the start. That was never something anyone could know in advance. Sometimes the reward for finishing your own journey is becoming the reason someone else starts theirs. 15 years in, something shifted. You checked your account one ordinary Tuesday, the way you always did, expecting the same slow, boring number you always saw. It wasn't slow anymore. 15 years of $100 a month meant $18,000 total, out of your own pocket. At the stock market's long-run average of about 10% a year, that same $18,000 had grown into roughly $41,500. You stared at the gap between those two numbers, $18,000 in, $41,500 sitting there now. Over $23,000 had come from nowhere you could point to. Not a raise, not a bonus, not a single extra hour of work. Just time and a habit you'd almost quit twice. You kept going anyway. 15 years no longer felt like a finish line. It felt like the middle of something much longer. By 20 years in, your account had climbed to roughly $75,900, built from $24,000 of your own contributions. The growth on top of what you'd put in was now more than double what you'd actually saved yourself, something that would have sounded made up to the version of you who almost canceled everything at year 2. By 25 years in, the number reached about $132,700 from $30,000 you'd personally contributed. You weren't checking the account every week anymore. You'd check it maybe twice a year, out of curiosity more than worry, the way you'd check the weather in a city you weren't visiting. By the time you hit 30 years, you'd put in $36,000 total across 3 decades of $100 months. Your account had grown to roughly $226,000, almost $250,000, built from an amount of money most people wouldn't notice missing from a single paycheck. You thought about the version of you at 24, staring at a chart online, wondering if $100 could ever matter. That version of you couldn't have imagined this number. He would have laughed at it, actually. It would have sounded impossible, the kind of number that only happened to other people, luckier people, people who started with more. The person who starts small and never quits ends up somewhere the person who waited for enough money never reaches. You didn't feel like celebrating this time either. You just felt calm. The same calm you first noticed in Denise all those years ago in that break room, before you understood what it actually meant. Somewhere right now, someone is staring at a chart online, just like you did all those years ago. They have $100 left over this month. They're wondering if it's even worth doing anything with. They don't know yet that 1 year from now, that habit could sit quietly at $1,257. That 2 years in, it could reach $2,644. That 5 years in, after everything feels slow and pointless, it could reach $7,744. That even after a crash cuts it down to $5,200, it could recover past $12,100 within 2 more years. They don't know that 10 years in, it could reach $20,480. That 15 years in, it could cross $41,500. That 20 years in, it could pass $75,900. That 25 years in, it could reach $132,700. And that 30 years in, built from just $36,000 of their own money, it could grow past $226,000. They don't know yet that the amount was never the point. The point was starting and never stopping, even when nothing seemed to be happening, even when the market fell apart, even when everyone around them looked like they were winning faster. That's the whole truth hiding inside this story. Small, boring, consistent decisions beat big, exciting, risky ones almost every single time, if you just give them enough years to work. If you're sitting on $100 right now wondering if it's enough to start, tell me in the comments. I promise you it already is. And if this story changed how you see that number, subscribe. The next journey starts exactly where this one just ended.